Okay, good evening again, everyone. I hope that the participants in the Google Meet can hear me. I have the honor to introduce our guest speaker for tonight. Uh, Let me go ahead and do so. Professor Pastor El Malabrigo, or Sir Pat, as we fondly call him. He's a junior, by the way. He has a junior at the end of his name. Is currently an associate professor and the chair of the Department of Forest Biological Sciences at the College of Forestry and Natural Resources, University of the Philippines, Los Baños. He is also serving as the curator for trees in the Museum of Natural History at the UPLB since 2012. He obtained both his BS Forestry and MS in Forestry, major in Plant Taxonomy, degree from the UPLB. His fields of specialization include plant taxonomy, marine botany, biodiversity conservation, and forest restoration. To date, he already authored 84 scientific papers, including 4 books on Philippine native trees. He is the author of the book Shades of Majesty, 88 Philippine Native Trees, which won the 2013 National Book Award and the 2014 Gintong Aklat Award. More recently, he co-authored the book Biodiversity Assessment and Monitoring System for Terrestrial Ecosystems, a revision of the 2001 Biodiversity Monitoring System Manual for Protected Areas. Prof. Malabrigo is a field practicing dendrologist, or that who studies trees, who spent most of his time in the forest. He is the only Filipino member of the Global Tree Specialist Group and the Species Survival Commission by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, or IUCN. Currently, he is leading the global tree assessment of 800 Philippine endemic trees for the updating of their IUCN Red List conservation status. Most importantly, Prof. Pat is a strong advocate of native trees conservation and an active member of the Philippine Native Tree Enthusiasts, or PNTE. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let us all welcome Sir Pat Malabrigo.
Okay, so again, thanks Sir Ben and Dennis. Okay, so again, thanks Sir Ben and Dennis for that kind of introduction. And of course, thanks to all the organizers, particularly the SONATA, what a good name, Society of Native Trees Advocates. Thanks for inviting me to talk on this online conference. And of course, good evening mga ka-native and to all the participants tonight. So Dennis told me that most of the audience of this conference are enthusiasts without formal background on biology and dendrology. So I chose this topic. But it seems there are some audience tonight that are also experts. So this may not be really for you, but I'm sure it will serve as a good refresher to you. Okay, so this will be the outline of my tonight's talk. First, as a sort of leveling up, I will define what are the kinds of plants included as trees for the rest of the presentation. Then, okay. So again, I will give you some statistics to answer the previous questions asked on the games, on how much native trees do we have. Then the third topic might be horrific for some, but don't worry, I will just give some tips on proper identification. Then the bulk of my presentation will deal on the threats and conservation of our Philippine native trees. Okay, so this question may sound very basic, as all of us are using tree almost every day in our discussion. But the reality is just like the word species, we do not have common understanding and definition of a tree. In fact, I just learned from while preparing this presentation, that Wikipedia has simple and not simple definition for tree. For simple Wikipedia, or according to Wikipedia, a tree is a perennial plant with an elongated stem or trunk, supporting branches and leaves in most species. But for simple Wikipedia, the definition is simpler. A tree is a tall plant with a trunk and branches made of wood. And other more technical and more strict definitions of trees would say that trees are woody plants with secondary growth, plants that are usable as lumber, plants above a specified height, which is 6 meters. But other wider definitions consider also the palms, the tree ferns, bananas, and bamboos as trees. Okay, so classifying a plant, whether a tree or not, would pose no disagreements for many of the plants. For instance, santan is a shrub, no question about that. Gabi is an herb. Ayo or tetrastigma is a vine, and dipterocarps are no question to be trees. But how about bamboo? So though it has erect stem and capable of reaching more than 6 meters in height, I do not consider this as a tree, as it is a grass to me without the solid woody stem. In fact, we do not call the stem of a bamboo a trunk. We call it a bamboo culm or a bamboo pole. Banana, for some, they call it banana trees, but definitely it will not qualify for a tree. Even though it has a single trunk and also capable of growing above 6 meters, it has no woody stem. Banana is an herb. I included the erect palms, but not the ratans, which are the climbing palms. While technically their trunk is not wood, because botanically speaking, a wood is the product of secondary growth, which is exclusive for both dicots and gymnosperms. But we all know that their trunk or palm's trunk are solid and can be used as lumber, just like the hardwoods. By the way, many of us used to describe some dicot trees as softwood to refer to the literal hardness or softness of the wood. But botanically speaking, again, all dicot woods are hardwoods. And softwoods refer to all gymnosperm woods, just like almasiga, benguet pine, igem, lupinai. They are softwood, even though literally they are premium and hard. So technically, they are softwoods. Gymnosperms are softwoods. Okay, so cycads are also trees for me with the same reasoning for palms. Okay, so the plants that are considered as trees for this presentation are, of course, the palms, the cycads, the two trees, including gymnosperms. But please note that even the small dicots, just like clerodendrons, and even, or the kasupangil, the bagawak morado, or even the erect medinillas, Medinilla aurantiflora, Medinilla lagunae, which are sometimes classified as shrub because of their short trunk, are also classified as trees. Again, I don't consider height as a qualifier as long as they have woody, single, erect stem. Okay, so now that we already defined trees, so the first question is, do you have any idea of how much native trees do we have? Okay, so the most comprehensive reference with regards to Philippine trees is the book published by Dr. Rojo in 1998, the Revised Lexicon of Philippine Trees. But this is not the kind of book common people would like to read because this is just enumeration of the names without any photos. So in this book, he listed 3,098 taxa. Take note, I use the term taxa, not species. So what is taxa? Taxa is basically the plural form of taxon, which refers to any name of any taxonomic rank. For instance, Muracii is a taxon, Ficus is a taxon, Hupea foxworthy is a taxon, Pterocarpus indicus forma echinatus is a taxon. So how is taxon different from species? First of all, species is both singular and plural. It sounds like a eardrum baker for many if they hear people saying species. So one species, two species, 1 million species. Everything is species. Okay, so how is taxon different from species? Let's take our Nara as an example. So we have prickly Nara, Pterocarpus indicus, Forma echinatus, and smooth Nara, Pterocarpus indicus, Forma indicus. So in this case, there are two taxa, but with only one species. So in our list, if there are infraspecific ranks, such as forma, variety, subspecies, then we should use taxa rather than species. Okay, so that's clear. So going back to the list, out of the 3,098 taxa listed by Rojo, 3,084 are native and 14 are exotic. And of the native species, 800 were listed as endemic, meaning only found in the Philippines and nowhere else in the planet. 929 are non-endemic, native to the country, but can also be found in other countries, while 1,355 were listed native, but not certain if endemic or not. In fact, there are no distribution records for most of the species on the book. Okay, so we have an environmental group called Proceeds, which is involved in a number of biodiversity assessment and partner of EDC and BGCI for the global tree assessment of Philippine endemic trees. So crucial to our assessment is a database of information. Hence, we develop our own database for Philippine trees. So we made Rojo's books as our main reference, but we also did a lot of review of all available materials, both old and recent, print and online. Okay. So in our database, we have recorded 3,391 taxa of trees. Take note that Rojo's tree classification is the same with us, which includes palms and cycads. But our list has 293 more taxa than that of Rojo. The discrepancy came from the fact that Rojo's list does not include species described from 1998. For example, Santostimon fruticosus, or the Sierra Madre Mancono, described by Leonard Coe and Wilson in 1998, is not included yet in Rojo's list. Our cycads now totals to 13, but Rojo's list still has 3. And in addition to that, we noticed some overlook on the book with due respect to the great Dr. Rojo. For instance, we have 57 described species of Saurauia even before 1998. But there's only one Saurauia species in Lexicon of Philippine Trees, and that is Saurauia bracteata or kulalabang. This could be the reason why every time foresters see a Saurauia species, it is automatically identified as kulalabang. So based on available literature, we have 3,283 native trees and 45%, 1,487 are endemic. Okay, so that's a lot of trees. 3,283 native trees. So the question is, how many do you know? And how many can you identify correctly? So I included this topic, not expecting that after this presentation, you can already develop identification skill. We know that identification is a very technical and complicated field of science. My aim here is to give you some basic tips not to commit crucial errors in identification. It will also guide us on how to properly select and photograph specimens, and not to expect that experts in our group can identify your seedling photos, trunk taken from far away, and sometimes segregated leaves. Okay, so to put it simple, the identification that most of you are practicing, or most common people are practicing, is equally familiarization. Okay. We want we want to name the plant as soon as we see the blade, the seedling photo, or even the trunk. That could be possible if we are dealing with just 10 to 20 species. But for thousands of species, there should be a systematic way of doing it, of identification. And that is by doing classification first. So to do this, we need to deal with characters. In fact, identification is more of a logical deductive reasoning that when you have a specimen with simple leaf, then the rest of the plant groups with compound leaves are automatically eliminated from your choice. Then if your specimen has opposite leaf arrangement, the rest of the plant groups with alternate spiral and whorled leaves are eliminated. So in this case, maybe you will be left with only around 10 families to choose from. So that's classification. It's just like doing batibot. Pag sama-samahin ng pare-pareho, ang magkakatulad ay ating igrupo. For instance, we have these 6 leaves of the same shape and size. We can separate the fresh from the dried. And among the fresh, we could still separate the one in vertical position, and so for the dried. So at first, we have a group composed of 6 leaves, but at the end, we managed to have 4 groups. So relating it to plant classification, the six leaves, because they have same size and shapes, can be placed as a big group. We can call it family Dahonaceae. Then we separate the fresh from the dried. We can call the fresh group the genus Sariwa. Then the dried genus, or the dried group, the genus Tuyona. The one which is so unique, the one from the fresh that is so unique because of its vertical position, we can name it the species Sariwa tayosia. The dried one, we can name it Tuyona patayupa. Okay? So in classification, characters common to a group are defined. And that defined characters would allow us to know where our specimen belongs. Once we know the family or the genus or the group of the specimen, then it will significantly increase our chance of knowing the name of it, since we will be dealing with only few taxa. Okay, to illustrate, many of you can easily tell the group or family of the species. So this belongs to family Orchidaceae. But you know, whenever you classify or you identify, you must always have the answer on the question, why do you think it belongs to the group? And the answer to those whys are the characters, right? So, for instance, we can say that this species belong to Orchidaceae because just like most monocots, they have 3 sepals and 3 petals. But in the case of orchids, the front petal is modified to become a lip or labellum. There could be some other modifications, but the general structure for all orchids are the same. So Orchidaceae, that's classification to family level. You know it already. How about this? You can easily say the genus, which is Rafflesia, right? So that is classification up to genus level. Again, you should answer the question, why do you think they belong to Rafflesia? Of course, they are so unique because they do not have roots and leaves. They have 5 ferruginous lobes or as petals. They have diaphragm, warts, and windows, and so on. So in general, classification is easier and can be more accurate if we use reproductive characters, meaning the flowers and the fruits. In fact, most taxonomists can classify and identify plants, cannot classify or identify plants without the flowers and the fruits. But we all know that these parts are very seasonal. So most of the times we need to deal with the characters that are readily available, which are the leaves and the twigs. Okay, so still we can use leaf characters. You know, I was tempted to take some photos posted on our PNTE group for you to understand what I meant by crucial errors in identification. But I'm afraid those people who posted will get offended. So I just look for familiar or similar cases and examples. So, okay, let's have this photo. Many of you will say outright that it's a mulave. This is a mulave. Yes, they are similar because they both have trifoliate leaves. But if you have knowledge of characters and you examine the specimen, there is no way this species can be a mulave. Why? Mulave has opposite or decussate leaf arrangement, just like all the members of the family Lamiaceae. While this one, which is Barotongol, Alupilus cube, has a spiral leaf arrangement or alternate or spiral leaf arrangement, just like all the members of family Sapindaceae. So in the same sense, many of you would identify it as kalingag. But then again, looking at the characters, it cannot be kalingag. This is kalingag. Kalingag has opposite leaf arrangement, while the other one has alternate leaf arrangement. This one is malaikmo. So opposite leaf arrangement is common to all our native Cinnamomum, while alternate leaf arrangement is common to all the members of the Celtis. Okay, so how about this? We have so many legumes with this kind of leaves. Some of you will say it's ipilipil or langil or akling parang. This is ipilipil. Why do you think they are different? So in our specimen, in our unknown specimen, this part is the whole leaf. Morphologically, we call it even pinnate. For ipil and even in langil and akling parang, this one is a leaf. It's morphologically, we call it bipinnate. That one is sampalok. Okay, how about this? Some answered tindalo, but then again, looking at the leaf arrangement or leaflet arrangement rather, tindalo has opposite leaflet arrangement. It's even pinnate, while this one is adpinnate. So could this be Nara? So Nara, though also adpinnate, it cannot be Nara because Nara has alternate leaflet arrangement. While in the case of this, which is Bani, Milecha pinnata, one's adpinnate but opposite leaflet arrangement. How about this? Okay, so you might say Caballero, Langil. So this is Caballero. So both of these are bipinnate. But take a look at the leaflet arrangement of our unknown specimen. In fact, this is the very unique feature of this group. This is the only bipinnate leaf composition or the genus with bipinnate composition, but with alternate leaflet arrangement. That is Adenanthera, so tanglin. Okay, so I hope that you already, you should now know how, in general, can trees, our species, can be differentiated, and what species or what characters should be looked at first. Okay, so why is it so important to do classification? So as Albert Einstein once said, I don't need to know everything. I just need to know where to find it when I need it. And never memorize something that you can look up. Because in the first place, it's too many to memorize. But if you have knowledge of classification, then you only need to look and compare your specimens in few members of the genus or the family. And you know, even by just looking at the definition of identification, it is the determination of the correct name of plant as being similar or different from an already known plant. So to do identification, we need this important information. First, pertinent taxa or the described taxa, where you would compare the unknown specimen to, and then useful differentiating characters, again, characters, characters, and the taxon or the unknown specimen themselves, as well as the characters of the taxon. Okay, so more often, identification is very much dependent on the amount of existing literature and publication where we can compare our unknown species. Fortunately for the Philippine trees, there is an unprecedented increase in the last decade, where even non-botanists can easily compare and recognize trees. For instance, we have this Philippine Native Tree Series 101, 202, 303. We have the book on beech forest species and mangrove associates, Guide to Washington Seasip and Native Plants to Boracay Wetlands. We wrote the book of Binhi Tree for the Future, and we also have the guide, the Book of Trees, which is a guide to the Biodiversity Park in UPLB. And of course, The Shades of Majesty, which was published by Aboitiz. So a lot of publications indeed for the last 10 years. But do you know that the combined total number of trees featured in all those books will not exceed 500 species? Yeah, that is why we always need to go back to old, more technical publications, mostly taxonomic characterization, boring, without photos, which many non-botanists can really comprehend. So for the general tips in identification, it must be based, again, identification must be based on characters. It's not just familiarizations. And in dealing with characters, we should put priority on more consistent characters. Flowers and fruits, they are always consistent. But if flowers and fruits are not available, then we could also focus on the more persistent or consistent leaf characters, which is the leaf composition, leaf arrangement. And for the blade characters, the only consistent character is the leaf venation. So do not rely much on blade characters because we call it bad characters. They are very variable, developmental variation, environmental variation. Okay, so it should be emphasized that the more characters we have, the higher the chance we can arrive at the correct name of a plant. And it goes to say that when we ask for identification of species in our group, better to have photos that will show details of the parts. Okay, let's move to the threats to the Philippine native trees. It is globally recognized that deforestation of all causes, logging, mining, kaingin, is the single greatest cause of species extinction. Here is a portion of an old growth forest in northern Sierra Madre, Palanan, Isabela. And these are photos of many mountains in Caraballo and Maparang mountain ranges in central to northern Luzon. In fact, we can no longer call them forest because the supposed to be dominant component, which is the tree, is no longer there. So based on the data of ESSC in 1999, the Philippines lost more than 50% of the forest land from 1900 to 1999. Data of FMB in 2007 showed 22% forest cover for the Philippines. But just to give you an idea, in FMB classification, a closed forest is an area with more than 40% canopy cover, while open forests are those areas with 10 to 40% canopy cover. I hope you can imagine a 10% forest cover in an area, and that is already included as a forest. I just don't know if ESC is using the same classification. So in the publication of Conservation International in 2011, the Philippines ranks fourth for most threatened forest hotspot in the planet. In fact, we should be tied for third with Sundaland, with only 7% remaining original forest cover. We know that most, if not all, native trees live in the forest. In fact, they are the reason why we call such an ecosystem a forest. Considering that 93% of our forest is already gone, it is also safe to assume that 93% of our trees were also gone with the forest. Okay, just to remind you that we are still on the discussion of threats to Philippine forest or to Philippine trees. If deforestation is the greatest cause, our reforestation is the second greatest threat to our native trees. Our country has a long history of reforestation, a process which is supposed to conserve and bring back our native trees. Unfortunately, prior to NGP, I'm not so much aware of these recent activities of NGP, but prior to NGP, more than 95% of reforestation efforts use exotic species. In fact, they are still using exotic species now. So everybody can identify the species. It's mahogany. This one is Gymnelina. And in Visayas and Mindanao, this is very famous Falcata or Parasariantes falcataria. So it's a common knowledge that these exotic trees are doing more harm than good when planted in our forest. Personally, I don't have problem using mahogany and Gymnelina in plantation because it is economically beneficial to the country and it lessens the demand pressure for wood of native trees. I personally do not consider them as invasive species. But we have a big problem now because these exotics were intentionally introduced as reforestation species in basically all of our natural forests. It is so disappointing and tiring when you are trekking a mountain and all you can observe are plantations of mahogany and Gymnelina, even at above 1,000 meters elevation. Okay, but why are or were they so obsessed with exotics? If you ask those people involved in planting, they will always have these two reasons, but I call it excuses. First, they said there is no source of planting materials for our native trees. Secondly, native trees are slow growing. But I'm sure a lot of our PNT members already debunked these excuses or these reasons. So just to show you, this is lower mountain rainforest in Cuernos de Negros, Negros Oriental. You can see that the trees are teeming in yellow colors, pinkish, because these are flowering dipterocarps, mostly tangile, almond, and white lawang. If we will look closely, we will take a closer look in one of the tree. So we can see how numerous the seedlings or how prolific cedar that these trees are. This tree alone, according to our to the famous seed collector in Surigao, this tree alone can produce no less than 20,000 seedlings. So, how much more seedlings or seeds can this forest produce? And even if we missed the seasonality for the collection of these fruits or seeds, we still have a lot of window to collect propagules. 2 months or 3 months after the flowering, the forest floor will be carpeted with wildlings. This is Dalingdingan in Sibuyan, Apunan in Palawan, and this is Makaasim in Quezon Protected Landscape. So I've been trekking mountains for more than 30 years now, and I can't remember a single trek when I did not observe seedlings carpeting the forest floor. Because that's the very characteristic of tropical forest. It's multi-layered. We have the ground cover composed of wildlings, litter, and grasses. The understory composed of wildlings, the canopy trees, and the emergent. So the fact is, there is no truth on the alibi that there is no source of planting materials. They have the jurisdiction in all our forests and protected areas. Instead of spending billions of pesos in buying seedlings, they must hire forest rangers, technicians, seed collectors to grow native seedlings. Okay, the second reason or excuse is that native trees are slow growing. This might seem questionable because in order for us to know that our native trees are slow grower than the exotics, then we must have a plantation mixed with native and exotics planted at the same time. But do we have a reforestation like that? A reforestation area like that? In one of our trips in Bicol region in 2013, we were able to visit this 10-year-old plantation. Then, the area is just after the beach portion in Basod, Camarines Norte. Accordingly, this plantation has won the Best Plantation Award in the Bicol region. So it was formerly a coconut plantation converted to tree plantation, planted by mahogany, gimmelina, and white lawan at 1.5 by 1.5 meter spacing. You can see that gimmelina and white lawan might have both have the same large diameter, about 10 to 15, but mahogany are far behind when it comes to diameter. But of course, when it comes to height, the white lawan trees, the native white lawan trees, is almost around 15 meters in height. This is a plantation we visited in Bohol, Rahasikatuna Protected Landscape, a 7-year-old plantation, 10 to 20 centimeters diameter, and about 10 to 15 meters height. This one is, the photo of this one was taken 2015, planted in 2008, so 7 years. This is Palusapis, and it's already 30 centimeters and about 20 meters in height. Of course, we have a lot of proofs with regards to our Binhi program. These photos were taken in 2016, so 7 years after planting. So before our planting, this school is very much exposed to sun, but now they are almost shaded by kamagong trees. 7 years, kamagong. Okay, this surprised me a lot. Same year planted, 2009, and same photo taken, same year photo taken, 2016. 7 years, and this kalantas, critically endangered in the 2007 red list, is already 40 centimeters in diameter. If we were not the ones who planted this species, we may not believe that it's only a 7-year-old kalantas. So, can we say that native trees are slow growers? You know, the truth is that we know very little with our native trees because we are ignoring them. And with our experiences in Binhi, we were also able to debunk the old teachings of our silvicultural professors. Sorry for them. I have high regards to them. Uh, Accordingly, we need to wait at least 25 years or more for a native tree to flower or fruit. This ipil became our epic example. So, we planted an ipil in Kalawan, Bayan Juan, Kalawan, Laguna in 2009. In 2012, it produced flowers and fruits. We harvest the fruits, the seeds, and plant and germinate it. Then the germinated seedlings, we introduced or we planted it in Muan Elementary School in Kidapawan. In 2015, it already fruited and flowered. We germinated it. So in 2015, in just 6 years, we already have 3 generations of ipil. And this one is a dipterocarp, Yakal saplungan, planted also in 2009, but began flowering in 2014 and yearly thereafter. This is really surprising. These mangkono are still on the potting bags and they began to produce flowers. But maybe the secret is that this came from a clone. And well, yeah, this wildlings that we planted to become source of our clonal materials became a dual source purpose for us, because we never knew that it would flowers and fruits early. So we are harvesting or collecting both vegetative propagules as well as seeds on this Head's Garden of Mangkono. Okay, so one of the biggest criticisms we have when we are just starting with Binhi is that seedling survival, since we are planting in urban setting, mostly in schools, would be a question. But our accomplishment has long answered this question. We have 90% survival rate in all our partners. So the biggest reason for this success is, of course, the commitment of our partner schools who nurtured our seedlings. And I think that makes the fate of our plantation significantly different from government reforestation projects. To borrow the poster of UP Mountaineers reforestation is just 10% tree planting and 90% nurturing. There is no way that publicity reforestation, which is a plant and forget practice, could be successful. Our native seedlings will be no match with the weeds and grasses that could easily invade and strangle them. Okay, so another problem is invasive species, which are capable of proliferating and invading a natural ecosystem, even without the intentional introduction. A good example of an invasive tree is paper mulberry, or Bucinaceae papyrifera. Or in Visayas and Mindanao, you know, buyo-buyo, Piper adumcum. They are very opportunist that would readily occupy a forest gap, leaving no space for native trees to grow. Okay. Late last year, I had a talk with horticulturists and landscape architects, and I told them that the number one culprit on bioinvasion, are the horticulturists. It was their bad habit of bringing exotic ornamental plants because of the landscape beauty, but without considering ecological implications. The truth is, many beautiful are dangerous. If we are not careful, we will fall on the trap of beauty. So look at this, sky flower, very attractive flowers, but highly capable of killing large trees by covering the whole canopy of the trees, thereby preventing them to photosynthesize. Hagonoy, they can quickly invade an open area, again, competing for the space of the native plants. Widelia, they call it wild sunflower. How do you expect native seedlings to grow in the forest floor thickly covered by this weed? Okay, so those are just some of the most or the primary threats. So given the threats and the status of our native trees, what do we do to help conserve them? So the first one in my mind is to mainstream the use of native trees in any forms of planting, be it in reforestation or landscape planting. But as we always say, we cannot conserve what we don't know. So an important part of this mainstreaming process is awareness campaign. With regards to awareness on Philippine native trees, we observed that this past few years, there is again an unprecedented increase in the appreciation of many Filipinos, thanks to our partners who are good in social media promotion, developing a lot of laymanized posters and publications. But to remind all of us, why do we need to promote native trees? Of course, they are better adapted in our native lands. They have higher resistance to pests and diseases, more effective in promoting biodiversity, improves the environment, and our Philippine native trees are high value trees. Okay. The good thing now is that we can now easily influence people because we are now better equipped with knowledge and in experiences for our native trees. We learned that native trees not only have greater ecological importance, but also have higher aesthetic value than other exotic species. These are the flowers of the most common exotics. I can easily say these are no match with the beauty of our native trees. These are Santostemon. For the information of everybody, we have 5 species of ironwood, Santostemon. Mapilig, Palawan Mangkono, Sierra Madre Mangkono, and Mangkono. So, how about the 5th? The 5th one is, I believe, the most gorgeous one. This is Bago Adlaw, Santostemon philippinensis. Okay, so the flowers resembles that of early morning sun rays. That's why maybe that's why it is called Bago Adlaw in Bisaya, Bagong Araw. Okay, and even without the flowers, the foliage are very attractive. Okay, we have also learned that many of our considered miscellaneous trees, not so known trees, have very high aesthetic potential. This is Bulong Eta, Juspyrus pilosanthera. When exposed to sun, they produce this lovely colored foliage. Then other species have equally beautiful flowers, Tindalo, Ipil, Katmon, Malakatmon, and if we want to have roadside trees, we can have Banaba, the Dita, which Ayala is using very much. Amugis, if planted in open area, this could be a good substitute for rain tree, which is exotic. The bonus part is that the fruits are edible. Dao, they have beautiful flowers. They produce large buttress. And we have been planting a lot of exotic bauhinia, but never planting our native one, which is Bauhinia malabarica, alibangbang. Again, the added value is that the leaves are edible. Of course, you are much familiar with Nara. Mulave, Aunasin, it's a small tree, only grow to a maximum of 5 meters. Shar, or Peltoporum pterocarpum. They call it copper pod because of the lovely pods produced by the tree. This is an image from, I think it's, Lancaster, New City, Cavite. Pardon to the one who posted it, but I just put it in the name of PNTE because it's posted on the group. So isn't it lovely for our roads to have these lines of native trees? So teeming in yellow flowers, then when they produce fruits, very beautiful copper pod. Then this is a plantation stand of Kamagong in the College of Forestry, UPLB. Betis, an endemic one. It's also a very beautiful tree. Of course, you know Bagawak Morado or fireworks, Clerodendron quadriloculare, very famous Balay Lamok or Salimbobo. And then, yeah, I just knew very lately that some of our native trees have these very beautiful flowers. Okay, so I suppose many of our PNT members are also members of RFRI or Rainforest Restoration Initiative. I wonder why PNTE is yet a member of this consortium. But then they are championing the mainstreaming of our native trees. Ayala Land is championing ANR in many of their areas. They develop a lot of tree parks inside their subdivisions. And if you happen to visit their malls, they are all out on the use of native trees for landscaping. Again, Bitaog, Balitbitan. And then Rafi, or Rafael Aboitis Foundation Incorporated, has a long ongoing CSR of forest rehabilitation in Cebu Island, partnering to local upland communities in the production of native seedlings. And of course, EDC has been hit, which is a noble CSR program which aims to bring back our threatened trees to abundance. As of now, we already have 178 partners across 16 regions and planted more than 10,000 threatened trees. Okay. The next one is the flagship species approach for conservation. Just a short story. When Ma'am Gina Lopez has had her short stint as DNR secretary, I was invited to talk with some of her USECs and ASECs to share our experience with Binhi. My suggestion to them was to prioritize conservation of threatened trees because EDC cannot do it for all threatened trees. We only have 96 priority species. So the plan is for each PENRO or Provincial Environment Natural Resources Office to have all threatened trees occurring in its province as flagship species for conservation. Meaning they should purposely search, rescue, reproduce, and mainstream those trees for planting. With USEC Marlo, with the then USEC Marlo Mendoza as the lead person, we already had the plan to pilot it in 5 protected areas. Unfortunately, Sec Gina was relieved as DNR secretary. I don't know if Sec Simato would adopt this program, but it worth a try. Okay, so it is understandable that we should prioritize the threatened trees as flagship species because they are the most prone to extinction. And speaking of threatened lists, we only have, or the only reference for the threatened trees is our Philippine Red List. So this is a comparison of 2007 and 2017 Red List of plants. So to date, the Dow 2017 11 Red List have 347 threatened trees on it, listed. So the most threatened family are the Dipterocarpaceae, Rubiaceae, and the Myrtaceae. Okay. So we have this more than 7 years of exploration for our project in Binhi, and that allowed us to document that there are species categorized as critically endangered in our Philippine red list, but are actually abundant in the field. While some species that are known only in one location were categorized as other wildlife species. So in 2016, EDC and BMB signed a MOA called Adopt a Wildlife Species Program. I think this is the first Adopt a Wildlife Species Program for plants, and it involves the 96 priority species of Binhi. And one of the EDC's tasks is to help in the updating of the conservation status of our priority species, because BMB is very much convinced that the Philippine Red List should be revised and updated. So we had a MOA with the BMB allowing us to collect and instructing their field officers to assist us in the collection of our Philippine threatened trees, our priority Philippine threatened trees. Okay, so accordingly, our Philippine Red List also used this criteria, the criteria used by IUCN. And looking at this IUCN criteria, majority depend on field knowledge. So we think that we are the most qualified persons to assist conservation status of at least our priority species, because we are the one doing the survey and exploration, the purposive survey for each species. In 2018, we presented our assessment for the first 10 species to BMB and PPCC, our Philippine Plant Conservation Committee. They commended and welcomed our submission, but accordingly, we need to wait for the next update of Philippine Red List, which is scheduled 2022, the earliest. Philippine Red List must, or ideally should be updated every 5 years. Our 2007 Red List was updated 2017. So it took 10 years. So by then, our assessment is no longer valid. So these are some of the, this is our recommendation for the 10 priority species. So being a member of the Global Tree Specialist Group, I submitted our assessment to IUCN, which was favorably accepted and published. So these are some of the IUCN publications. Now, this is the updated conservation status of the Santostimon species. So BGCI is the, or Botanical Gardens Conservation International, is the coordinator of the global tree assessment. And until now, they are badly looking for partners who can help in their global tree assessment, because only less than 10% of Philippine trees have IUCN assessment. So being satisfied with our first submissions, BGCI decided to partner with EDC for the global tree assessment of 800 Philippine endemic trees. The MOA signing followed by Red List Assessors training was done in May 2019. As stated in the MOA, we are able to submit 200 assessments before the end of 2019, 42 of which have been published last March in IUCN Red List. It's included, and the rest will be included in the July publication this year, which will be part of IUCN version 2020-2. Here is a summary of our assessment for the first 200 species. It is quite noticeable that 84% of our assessment did not match with Philippine Red List assessment. In fact, many of those discrepancies came from the categorization of many of very or narrowly endemic species. Species that are known only in one particular location, but categorized as OWS or other wildlife species, meaning not threatened for Philippine Red List. Okay, so there is this really call for a review of DAO or of the Philippine Red List, and I hope that by the end of the year, our assessments will all be published for us to have a more reliable references for when it comes to Philippine threatened trees. Okay, the third is of course forest protection. Isn't it ironic that while we are spending billions of money to bring back the gun forest, we are at the same time allowing illegal poachers, charcoal makers, and kainingineros to take down our existing resources? Are we not surprised that why until today, since 1910, we are continuously spending for reforestation? This is a good example, and thanks to Fred Chabo of the Philippine UP Mountaineers for these photos. In 2007, UP Mountaineers adopted an area in Ipo watershed. They reforested using the pioneer tree species, and in 2013, it's already vegetated. But in 2014, it is again kaingin or burned. Okay, so lastly, we should not forget that all the knowledge we have for our native plants. In the first place, why we have plants to talk about now, those knowledge, we owe them to the people who named, described, and studied them. And, you know, they are the taxonomists. So going back to our topic, how well do we know our native trees? So our 9 years of exploration in Binhi allowed us to document new distribution record of species. We learned that some of our species are more spread than what it is written in the literature. This is Malabayabas. Previously, it is categorized as critically endangered in DAO 2007. And it's considered rare. But look at that. This is in Aurora Memorial Protected Landscape. We estimated at least 20,000 individuals of Malabayabas in that forest alone. And look at that. A shot, widescreen shot, with more than 90% Malabayabas trees. This is natural forest, not plantation. This is a top view. Look at the crown, very beautiful. And we are also very much surprised when we had the trek in Mount Mingan, because from 400 meters, from all we know, the Malabayabas occur only at low elevation. But in Mount Mingan, and also when we climb Mount Palali, it's the same case. From 400 meters or 300 meters elevation to the mossy forest. Look at that. The moss are growing on the trunks of Malabayabas. Okay, and this is Palawan Mangkono, previously classified as critically endangered, become endangered. So, when you visit Palawan, this species is the most dominant, more dominant than our pioneer species, all the way from the south, Batarasa, to El Nido, and the whole Calamianes group of islands, except Coron, which is a limestone forest. Okay, so while these are important contributions to science, our experience in Binhi made us realize that we know very little about our native trees, because our knowledge is only dependent to available literature, which is limited to explorations and publications done by earlier foreign taxonomies. The sad truth is that more than 95% of our trees were named by foreign taxonomists. Even before the Convention on Biological Diversity, it was already recognized that the greatest challenge to biodiversity is documenting what is here before they are gone. As early as 1992, CBD already initiated PIT program, Partners Enhancing Expertise in Taxonomy, to encourage more students and young scientists to venture into taxonomy because of the realization that, that people studying biodiversity are becoming more threatened than the species they are studying. The problem is more serious in the third world countries like the Philippines. In 2015, the Smithsonian Institute provided a small amount to conduct workshop for the attempt to revive the Philippine Flora Project or the Philippine Flora Exploration Project. For all you know, the Philippine Flora Exploration Project was conducted, or the last flora exploration was conducted in 1986 to 1989. Unfortunately, it ended without any comprehensive publication. If you can see on the photo, this national workshop was attended by around 25 participants. And only around 15 among these are really doing taxonomic works. Sad to say, taxonomies are more threatened than Philippine eagle. But why are people not interested in taxonomy? That's a big question. Or in biology. We're going to ask elementary or high school students of what profession they want to become. Of course, many will choose engineer, doctor, lawyer, but never or very rare as a biologist. Probably because biology is an unpopular field, more so with taxonomy, and not a profession for one to become rich. But our children should realize that life is not only about money and being rich. I may not be as rich as engineers, lawyers, and doctors, but I can proudly say that I'm happy. And I'm very thankful that I am being paid for doing the things I love to do most. Discovering new species worth no amount of money. Conquering an unexplored mountain is priceless. I believe that the primary reason why young people do not want to be biologists is their lack of experience with nature. So I challenge every millennial here and the parents of millennials as well. Stay out with your computers and tablets for a while, walk into the forest and interact with nature. Maybe then they will realize, yes, there is no internet in the forest, but I'm sure you will find better connection. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you, Sir Pat. Let's give him a round of applause. Okay, thank you.
Galing.
Galing, galing. So now we will go to the questions and answers and interactions.
Sinong mag-moderate?
Can I throw the first question? This is Doc M.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Pat.
Yes, Doc.
Oh, good evening. That was a very good presentation. Pwede ba kitang ikot na one of the biggest causes for deforestation is our reforestation efforts?
Sure.
My question actually is, saan kami pwede makakuha ng publication doon sa growth rates ng mga puno para we can sell the concept of propagating Philippine native trees na mabilis siyang lumaki? Kailangan namin ng reference.
Thanks, Doc Ephraim. The sad reality is that we have not much information about native trees. As I have said in my presentation, we're always we often ignore our native trees. We have much publication regarding growth and yield of Gmelina, mahogany, but not much with native trees. But I believe ERDB has this rice series before, but it's not a comprehensive publication for many species, but I believe it's one species, a publication for one species per series or per issue. Right?
Sige. For the meantime, can we quote na ang basis namin is the experience of EDC Binhi doon sa existing engagements ninyo doon sa mga plantations na mayroong mga native species.
Okay. So EDC Binhi has not hindi pa kami naglalabas nung publication
Oo nga eh.
So wala talaga kami. But we are going to that. No? So marami pa lang works, but we will be doing that, the publication for that. No? Alam namin na maraming nag-aabang nitong growth and yield for our native trees.
Ang isa rin naming alternative for the meantime, yung mga pinopost ng mga PNTE members. So, sina Carlo Angla, sina Ben. So, yung mga pictures nila na sila mismo nagtanim, at least yung meron silang notes kung kailan nila tinanim tsaka gano'n nakalaki ngayon. Thank you sa other members.
Actually, we need to encourage those partners planting trees to really monitor the growth and make it available to the public and to the group. We can learn from them, of course. Dennis?
Okay, next questions. I cannot see the participants because my screens are used for the slides.
Dennis, can you hear me?
You can unmute. Yes. Yeah, from Google Meet.
This is Rafi from Palawan Native Trees. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Are you in the Zoom?
Yes, I'm sa Zoom.
Okay. Zoom participant. Okay. Go ahead.
Yes. Tanong ko lang po kay Sir Pat. Can we invite you to discuss about trees that are easy growing in Palawan? Can we invite you in a Zoom meeting maybe in August? Po?
Yeah, no problem po. We have a ongoing project in Palawan. Actually,
okay. Saan po? Saan po sa Palawan?
Botanical exploration in Palawan. We have one in Mount Pantalingahan Protected Landscape.
Oh, okay, very good.
Kay Patra Needle Forest Reserve.
Okay, very good po. Kasi doon po ngayon yung nagkakaroon ng problema sa Mount Matalingahan, sa Rizal.
Hindi ko po alam.
Oo. Okay. Sige po. We'll get in touch with you via your email na lang.
Opo, sige po.
Okay, sige. More power, sir. At least nakita ko kayo ngayon in person kasi I used to see you lang sa TV eh. Okay. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Sir Pat.
Sir Pat, I have a question. Sir Pat, may question ako, si Monet.
Yes, Monet.
Kasi parang napapansin ko kasi na-observe ko dun sa ibang mga ka-PNTEs, no? Kasi nila, yung parang mga wala namang value. Parang native trees lang. Parang sayang yung effort. Sayang yung time, yung gano'n, no? Yung time nila, yung effort nila, tapos yung area, yung resources. So, ano yung, parang can you name some native trees na, yung high value crops, yung pwedeng, di ba, kaya di naman tayo nagtatanim, syempre, pwedeng, yung iba parang inaano rin naman nila na i-harvest in the future, di ba? Parang may ano naman, may income na papasok, parang ganon. Yung ganon. Ano
economic value.
halimbawa sa gubas, kasi yung mga fast growing, kailangan natin yun. Di ba? So ano yung mga high value crops na native species?
Okay. It depends on what value o kung ano yung tinitingnan natin binavalue. No? Kung timber,
Oo, yan, timber.
of course, our pterocarps.
Okay.
But if we look at the conservation side, that's why my suggestion is to prioritize those that are threatened. But of course, it's good that we are planting native, any kind of native trees.
Okay.
But especially for the government who is dealing with all the forests, then they can prioritize at least the threatened trees. High value crop trees, malapapaya,
Yan.
gubas, that's for pulp and paper. I'm sorry, I'm not really good in the utilization part.
Okay.
Only in the consumption.
Sige, I understand. Kasi sa Mindanao kasi, di ba, puro falcata yung tinatanim ng mga farmers. So, may nakakausap kami na, meron pa ba dong gubas? Di ba dati daw meron dong plantation ng mga gubas, ng ganon? Kasi yun yung mga pwedeng gamitin nila sa ibang pampalit ba? Pampalit.
Okay. Wala akong alam na plantation ng gubas, but I happened to see natural stand of gubas sa Bohol. Although hindi siya yung dikit-dikit talaga dahil natural stand niya. So pero medyo dominant doon.
Okay. Thank you. And congrats.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Question from Google Meet.
Dennis, you need to relay to me the question from the
Okay,
Google.
okay. I can repeat. There's so many chats here now in the Chloe, kung pwede rin po palang magtanong, anong recommended starting point para pagpili ng trees na priority sa reforestation effort? May general recommendation po ba? On-site dependent siya palagi?
Okay. So, just like dun sa mga restoration talks namin, so you really don't need to be an ecologist or a taxonomist in order to know what species is good for reforestation in your area. Kailangan mo lang hanapin, alamin mo lang kung ano yung mga tumutubo sa tabi niya. In fact, mayroong mga lumalabas na suggestions na this group of species is good for the whole province. I don't buy that, Kasi iba-iba talaga yung condition. Again, laging may site species compatibility assessment dapat. So hindi dapat yung itong species na to is good for the whole province, be it in lowland or in the highland. So palagay ko hindi dapat ganon. So ang titingnan lagi natin, species site compatibility. At pag sinabi nga natin species site compatibility, hindi naman natin kinakailangan pa ng maraming studies on the physical, on the biological. Hanapin lang natin ano yung mga native na tumutubo within the area. Then that's the most adapted for this particular area.
Hello, Sir Dennis. I have a question.
Is this from Zoom or from Google Meet?
This is from Zoom.
Okay.
Hello. Well, first of all, thank you, Sir Pat and Sir Dennis, for organizing this informative webinar. I am Maji from the Philippine Eagle Foundation, and I've been doing rainforestation. At the moment po, actually, meron kaming rainforestation at the lowland within the city. So this is really an informative, a very technical information that is pleasing to me and to our organization. So medyo technical po yung tanong ko, Sir Pat and Sir Dennis, in terms of tree nurturing. So we've been starting planting pioneers in a 6 hectare lang muna. Ito siya, 6 hectare open space, grassland, seasonally flooded restoration site. And then we've been planting Dita, Nara, Bacan, Dao, Tanag, even Talisay. We've been also planting Igyo. Impressive naman din po yung growth rate niya kasi medyo mabilis po. In fact, almost 2 years, meron na pong umaabot ng 7 meters. So yung tanong ko lang po kasi yung struggle namin at saka yung pinaka talagang mahirap sa ginagawa namin is fighting against competitive weeds, especially and then grasses, especially paragrass. Ano po ba yung mga efficient and cost-effective way of nurturing or maintaining trees planted? So at first po, we've planted, our target was 15,000. We've reached more than 25,000 kasi medyo mataas yung mortality rate because nga last year umabot po tayo, or we've experienced here in Davao region El Nino, relatively El Nino, drier period. And then, after El Nino, bumagsak na naman yung ulan. Tapos, grabe po talaga yung tubo ng paragrass. So, we've been doing manual round weeding. Pero syempre, medyo nahihirapan din po kami because of the resources. So, ano po yung mga strategies that we can adopt in this certain area?
Yes, tama ba, Maji?
Yes, sir. I am Maji po.
Maji. Okay. Do you know about assisted pioneer climate species approach?
Yes, sir. Nadaanan ko po siya. Unfortunately, sir, wala po din talaga tayong, parang it's really paragrass, the whole 6 hectare.
Okay, yes. But we have pioneer species that are, or that can compete with grasses. So, just like binunga, problem is, nobody is propagating this pioneer species, mass propagating the pioneer species. So, yun sana mga binunga, pinayuyo, paguringon, batino, na naturally makikita nyo parang sila yung nagdo-dominate sa mga savanna grass o savanna type vegetation. Puro grasses yan, pero makikita nyo yung mga species na sila yung nagdo-dominate. In fact, they are fire resistant and they are drought resistant. So, ang medyo, laging ibabato sa akin pag nagsadya sa akin, saan tayo makakakuha? That's the problem. Walang nagpo-propagate ito mga pioneers. But it's a good market for all the reforestation practitioners.
And to have an update din po, we've been trying to propagate sa ngayon yung mga yung mga alim. Opo, may mga binungan na po kami. Although, pakonti-konti lang kasi nasa city kami. So, kung may madadaanan po talaga akong open area na pwede po akong mag-collect, we do collection of it. And then, meron din po kaming, even yung kalumpang, sir, at saka yung
Yeah.
kalumpang, oo. So, yun, ang naging problema lang po talaga namin is to fight paragraphs. So, yun, sir.
Paragraphs yung nasa area na
As, yung paragraphs po, umaabot na po siya ng mga nasa 2 meters. Kasing height ko na din po.
Yes. Kasi nga, dapat kung tatanggalin nyo siya mula sa ilalim. Grabe, stolos siya ng bilis kumalat.
Oo.
Pinutol nyo lang, mas ang bilis lang tumubo. Sa assisted natural regeneration practices, ito yung pioneer ni Pat Tukayo Dugan na hindi nila pinuputol. So binebend lang nila yan ng binebend. So iwiwid nila yung area na may tanim, pero binebend lang palayo doon sa seedling yung mga kugon or napier or paragrass.
Yes, sir. Oo po. We've been trying that also since last year. Pero kailangan din siyang balik-balikan. Yun
Yes,
na. Oo, kailangan siyang balik-balikan talaga.
Especially sa marginal area natin itinanim yung ating mga seedlings. Talagang regular weeding ang kailangan natin.
Okay, sige sir. Thank you so much. And pwede din po bang mag-plug na lang rin? So anyone has spare on pioneer species na wala po silang pwedeng mapagtamnan, meron po kami. We have a 6 hectare. We need 15,000 more pioneer species, yung mga na-mention po din ni Sir Pat. We can collect. If you want to donate it, you can donate it to Philippine Eagle Foundation. We'd really love to collect it and to plant it in Davao City, lowland forest restoration. Thank you, Sir Pat, and thank you, Sir Dennis.
Thanks, Haji.
Okay, thank you.
Sir Dennis, pwede po magtanong?
Okay, we have a lot of questions, no? How many there's sa Zoom pa ba at saka sa Google Meet? Okay.
Sa
Sige.
Zoom po.
Sa Zoom?
Yes po.
Okay, go ahead Zoom first. Kindly post the questions sa Google Meet chat.
Okay, thank you. Ako po pala si Nomar Waminal. Nandito po ako na-base sa South Korea.
Okay.
Thank you po Sir Pat sa very informative presentation. Wonderful job. I have your book, Philip 202, and I also have your binhi here. So I'm just wondering kasi yung field ng research ko po is plant cytogenomics.
Yeah.
Kung meron po gusto ko kasi makipag-collaborate sa Philippine native plants. Kung meron pong ways or paraan na mag-collaborate with you and dito i-conduct yung research in Korea and we can work together. Are you open to that, Sir Pat? And
Okay, what part of your cytogenomic study mo ako i-involve? Because I'm not into cytogenomics.
Yes. So, ang gusto ko lang po is mag-collaborate tayo sa mga samples and in some ways we can find an agreement na i-transport yung samples sa South Korea and we can work here and maybe sometimes work with your students come to Korea. And if we can find some funding from Philippines, fund some students na mag-work in our lab and then we can publish our work together, especially focus on the 96 plant species that you have mentioned first, and then we can go on with all the other native trees later on. And you mentioned about the 96 critically and valuable plant trees, yes, in the Philippines. So maybe we can focus on that and first, and then we can expand later on. And you think there are some funding organizations in Philippines so we can source our funding for the students to come here and do the work?
Okay. Pwede naman tayong mag-collaborate even with other faculty and department and the graduate students, no? But please take note that yung permit para mag-transport, that needs a lot of paperworks, GP, no, sa BMB. So yun lang, wala nang problema sa collaboration.
Pero if we can perhaps make an agreement and then maybe work together on the permit and the material transfer agreement, kasi yung mga Cartagena protocol, yung mga seeds i-transport from another country, we need, as you mentioned, a lot of permit to do that. Kung merong ganun po, pwede naman tayo maka-work together for the permit na pwede i-transport dito sa Korea yung mga seedlings, and we can work together. Willing po kayong ano po, sir?
We can try, but hindi ganun kabilis, ha? Baka kasi nagmamadali kang makatapos, baka tapos sa semestre, wala pa yung permit natin.
No problem po, anytime, kasi dito naman ako I'm an assistant professor now sa Samyuk University sa Korea. So I think kahit later on pa mag-start ang program. And I'm very interested sa Philippine native plants. Kaya I joined this your presentation kasi I want to learn more. Actually, I bought this book also before kasi I want to comprehensive research din sa ating mga native plants sa Philippines. So I really want to connect sa Philippines and do this kind of research, genomics research ating mga native plants. Kasi I noticed not so many genomics and cytogenomics work has been conducted in terms sa mga Philippine plants. So I want to pursue this. And I need a partner and collaborator sa Philippines. That's why I really want to pursue this with you.
Yes, no problem. We can pursue on that.
Thank you, Sir Pat. I think we can, I want to communicate with you privately later.
I can give you my email address.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir, we have questions Google Meet. You can read it, sir. Kay Ramil Garcia sa chat.
Pwede po kaya we can introduce this endemic species to other provinces? Kung doon lang kasi siya makikita to a certain province or isang area, especially endangered, in ibang species. Kasi kung threatened siya sa isang lugar, baka pwede siyang ibang lugar na pwede siya maprotektahan. That's from Ramiel Garcia. Naririnig ba ako ng mga taga-Google Meet?
Naririnig. Okay. Naririnig daw, sir.
Okay, sige. Ramiel, pwedeng i-introduce. In fact, yung aming program or project na binhi, it's on ex situ conservation of the threatened species. So, yung mga species na Mindanao endemic lang o Zamboanga endemic, tinatanim namin yan sa iba't ibang school all throughout the Philippines. So, it's ex situ conservation. So, maganda na meron tayo kahit doon sa mga schools sa urban para kung sakali mang mawala na yung nasa natural, so pwede pa rin tayong, meron pa rin tayong source ng mother trees para sa future.
So this is the last question maybe. Kasi overtime na po tayo. Then maybe we can have next session in the future.
Okay. Sinong magla-last question? Kung wala ako na lang pwede, Denny.
Sa kay Sir Pat, dito sa Google Meet, mayroon pang question. From John Godwin.
Okay, John Godwin Malyari. Good evening po. Ask ko lang po if possible po na magkaroon ng breed between two native species. If pwede po, possible po ba siyang maging resistant to any pest or diseases? Anong breed? So, you mean hybridization, huh? Right? Okay. So, hybridization is common to natural species. Kahit natural species yan, meron na tayong natural hybrid ngayon ng pagatpat at pedada. Soneracha cassularis and Soneracha alba. Mayroon na tayong mga natural hybrids din ng Rhizopora. I think 3 na yata yan. So, and marami pa tayong marami pa sigurong, malamang marami pang hindi nare-record, pero naturally nagka-hybridize ang ating mga species, especially if they are closely related. So, ang tanong mo is, posible po ba siyang maging resistant to any pest or disease? So, hindi natin, posible yan, no? Pero hindi pa natin masasabi. We need to study those. Una, ma-identify natin na siya ay breed or hybrid. Mas maganda kung malalaman natin kung sino yung tatay at nanay, yung parental materials. And then, saka natin pag-aralan kung saan siya pwedeng maging resistant. So, but for now, hindi ko pa masasagot yan. More likely pwede, no? But we need studies for that.
Okay, from Zoom. Last question from Zoom.
Hi, good evening. I'm
Good evening.
Arian. Hindi to siya question, Sir Pat. Meron po akong sinend sa inyo na private message. I'm from Rafi, the one that you mentioned before. So, hingi lang po ako ng contact number. Thank you po.
Pwedeng sa chat box ilalagay ko yung aking yung aking email
address.
Okay. Sir Dennis, can I ask the...
Sir Dennis, I saw one more question in the chat portion. Would you mind if I think this is a very relevant question. Would you mind if I just read it out loud?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
It's from Gawin Coronel again. Sir Pat, would it be considered ecologically meaningful to plant Philippine native trees that may be native to an area into another area where they are not naturally present? Kasi di ba archipelago tayo eh. So there are endemic trees that are endemic to very specific islands lang, for example. So what is your take on that, sir?
Okay, so as much as possible, we want to plant the species on their native habitat. But again, just like what we're doing in Binhi, we introduce them to outside of their natural habitat, primarily for ex situ conservation. We are not certain whether that particular population, natural population of the species, is still being there 10 years, 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years from now. So for conservation practices, ex situ conservation is a valid, is a standard, an effective strategy for conservation of threatened species. As far as native to native species relationship is concerned, hindi pa naman kami nakaka-document na yung native tree na to ay harmful dito sa native tree na to. So, or maybe kulang pa rin tayo sa study. But as far as our project program, our experience is concerned, so wala namang problema. So it's ecologically important because again, kung threatened species yan, so yun nga, we are securing future source of the propagule by introducing them to other habitats or other localities.
Very interesting.
Okay.
Sir Dennis, maybe back to you. Maybe you'd like to do the
May question din dito, Sir Pat.
closing remarks, or if there are more questions.
Yes.
any problems with the NPA or mga rebelde on research and planting of native trees?
Hindi naman namin nagiging problema. Una-una, pogi din naman kami. Hindi. Kailangan lang kasi talagang proper coordination. Proper coordination. If you are, kung wala kang masamang plano sa gubat, para sa bayan, para sa environment yung iyong ginagawa, susuportahan ka pa nila.
Okay. So next, that's the last question. Maybe we will have sessions in the future. So I would like to give some thanks and appreciation to our speaker.
Yeah, in behalf of PNTE admins, great job, Dennis and NTE, and thank you very much, Pat.
Yeah. So thank you very much for the Native Trees online conference. So that's the end of our session conference. Thank you very much.
Very enjoyable.
Congratulations, Sir Dennis.
Yes, congrats.
Great job.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Take care. Yeah, we can have maybe a session for this another. Yeah. Thank you, Sir Pat.
Thank
Good
you.
evening. Thank you and bye-bye.
Class picture.
Okay, let's take picture maybe.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, can you first is Zoom and then Google Meet. Tan, can you take charge the Google Meet? Oh. Okay. Wow, so many participants here. Okay, smile, show your face. Zoom. Okay. Next. So many. Okay, one more. Another batch. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Another group. So many. Okay. One more. Last, this is last. For Zoom, 1, 2, 3. Okay.